place to promote the growth of Tigres in English through analysis, discussions, interviews, and more. Welcome to the La U Times podcast. And we're back on a not so pleasant start to the week. Welcome back to the La U Times podcast, the place where we talk about our beloved Tigres in English, en las buenas y en las malas, unfortunately. And tonight we're talking about being in las malas because of what happened last night in Monterrey with our femenil squad. And we have a lot of ranting and processing to do as a group together. So, first of all, shout out Arnoldo, who's holding it down in Monterrey. That's why he's not joining us tonight, and that's why I'm filling in as host, taking my proper role at QB2. And I got to bring the boys in here with me to get us going on this night. So first, let's start with our main man, who is finally back from vacation and is ready to unleash every take possible. It's Mr. Lou himself. How are you, my friend?
What's up, Dennis? Good to be back, man. Happy to be back from vacation. I'm still processing. I think you said it best. We're processing. We're grieving. We're going to get through this together, man.
We sure are. Next up, we've got Mr. A. Alfred down in the H. How are you, my guy?
I don't know, man. Denial. What stage of the grief are we in? It's just
denial.
unbelievable. But we gotta face it.
We do. And my partner in crime up here in DFW, the man who likes to run, Edgar himself, our outline king. How are you?
Doing well. Glad to be back with you guys. As always, not in the best of times, but en las buenas y en las malas. We are here with some Excedrin for the migraines, the headaches caused by last night's match.
You are 100% correct. Tonight's unofficial sponsor, Key Lime LaCroix. I was introduced to this over the weekend. I went to Arkansas to go visit one of my friends who just moved up there. And this was one of the drinks in his fridge. And surprisingly, I like this, even though I'm not the biggest LaCroix guy. Because obviously, why would you like LaCroix if Topo Chico is the superior sparkling water? But this is pretty good. So you should try it. Anyways.
Does it help with the hangover?
I mean, I didn't have a hangover because, I don't drink alcohol. So that doesn't apply to me. But maybe it could apply to everybody else. So
The soccer hangover.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Before we get anywhere else, if you're watching right now on X, Twitter, on YouTube, help us out. Give us a like if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you're watching on Twitter, retweet, repost, whatever it's called, quote tweet, like it, send it to people. We want a lot of people to join us in on the discussion tonight. And obviously, as always, please comment. Please leave your thoughts and opinions. We will show them. We will read most of them, if not all of them. And I'm sure we all have lots of opinions to get to tonight. So please join us. Please give us your feedback. It goes a long, long way. All right, Edgar. Let's get the processing going. Kick us off with your outline. You're muted. Run it back.
Rewind real quick. Sorry about that. But let's kick off the evening. For a lot of fans, last night's game could be summed up in two words, and that is fuera Mila. Unfortunately, our Amazonas lost a 3-0 lead to Rayadas Femenil and thus let the 7th league title slip away.
Ay. At halftime, we're up 3-0 on aggregate after a wonderful goal from Ovalle in transition and then Anadia scoring very shortly thereafter. And we had control for the first few minutes of that second half, and then everything spiraled very quickly. If you don't know, listeners/viewers, Raya scored 2 pretty quickly. Around the 83rd, 84th minute, Ovalle took a penalty. It got saved, which should have been called back because the keeper was most definitely off of her line. But ultimately got saved, and then La Ley de X came to full effect with Gatti scoring the equalizing goal, and then Rayadas winning the shootout because for some reason we didn't go to extra time last night. So there's a lot to get to. I'm sure we'll hit all of it in full. But Lou, I have to start with you. I know you've had all of your thoughts just kind of brewing throughout the day and last night. So please kick us off with your takes on the unfortunate proceedings last night. Actually, before you go, shout out Sean saying that was a Buffalo Bills Minnesota Vikings level choke job. I think I have to agree with that. So anyway, Lou, unleash
Yeah,
the fury.
I'm usually a type of guy that when I fall asleep, I don't wake up. I don't wake up through the night. I just sleep all through the night like a rock. And last night I woke up like 3 times, and each time I woke up, it was because of the game. I mean, it was that. And I know you're probably thinking I need help. Yeah, I'm gonna get some help after this,
Did
but
you wake up like the Luisito meme? Like, no.
yep, just like that, bro. I was like so heartbroken this morning. It's just I still can't believe it. I think Alfred said it. We're still in stage one of the grieving process because I'm still pretty much in denial. Like I cannot believe it's happened. And honestly, like I've been thinking about it. Like I feel like at some point we're gonna have to, eat the humble pie as a fan base. We've given this team so much credit throughout the years of how wonderful they've been and how dominant they've been. But this season, I think, is the first year where they're ending the year with no real hardware whatsoever. And you let the neighbors go back to back on you. So it's I think it's a moment to kind of reflect as a team, as a fan base, and realize that I think we're gonna have to start putting in some real work. And it starts with the front office making good signings. It starts with our players. Watching them at the end, a lot of them were all kind of gathered around watching Rayadas lift the cup, and I could just see like there was a certain amount of like fire in their bellies, which tells me like there is a core group of players that I know are going to work really hard and they're going to get back to trying to being on top, which is what we need. But there was a lot of moves this offseason. I think, as fans, we push a lot of times when players get old. Hey, let's get rid of them. They're getting older. Let's get a younger player. And it, one thing that has taught me, I think we do it in the varonil too on the men's side. Guys like Aquino, Pizarro, Carioca, Gignac, Nahuel. Let's push them out. They're getting older. Let's get somebody fresh. Like you constantly hear that all the time. And obviously you can go like I'm just thinking right now in terms of like Mercado, for example. We got rid of her because we said, oh, she's aging. She's one of the oldest players. We need to get rid of her. And on paper, we went out and got La Chata Hernandez, who, on paper is faster, stronger, could cover more ground perhaps. But there's one key element missing, which was the leadership aspect of it. We lost one of the great leaders. And I think that's something that you can't really replace. A lot of times guys are really good technically, that they're tactically solid, but have no leadership skills. And so we've lost some of that along the way. And I feel like the second half, a lot of it was we didn't have any leaders in the locker room. I'm not putting it on like Ferralo or anything, but I'm thinking in terms of Mila. Mila's not a coach who, we've mentioned it before. She's like a glorified PE teacher. And something happened at halftime that didn't happen at halftime for us that happened for Rayadas, right? There was word on the street that Rebecca Bernal told the players, hey, if you don't believe in the comeback, get out of the locker room. As opposed to us, we went in thinking we had it cinched up, game was over, we played soft. So that tells me there was no leadership from Milagros Martinez, and in our players there wasn't that sense of urgency. So to me, that kind of boils down to arrogance in a way, and also just making sure that as a front office we start to replace these players, not only talent wise, but we need to make sure we fill in with leaders as well.
That's a good like overarching like big picture view. And I think you summed that up really well. Edgar, I want to get to you next and talk specifically about the game. I mean, there was a lot of things about that second half, especially misfortune, bad execution, a little bit of, I don't know if I want to call it corruption, but like I'm talking about the penalty of a Valle, like just goalie's feet not on the line, just a little bit of everything going wrong. Um, Tell me what, in your eyes, what was like the biggest thing? Let's stay away from Mila for a second. I know we're going to talk about Mila for a while, but what do you think was the biggest like factor in that second half as far as like everything falling apart?
I think it was definitely lack of leadership and this sense of comfort that surrounded our team. You could see it in maybe some of our players, maybe not directly, but I think as a collective, you're up 3-0. You don't expect anybody to score 3 on you. And I think that excess in confidence was something that triggered every single domino to fall over and for us to lose control of everything.
Alfred, I'll kick to you now. Defensively, really poor that second half. On all the goals, really, just a lot of things that could have been cleaned up. How disappointed are you in the defense, especially after that kind of being like a hallmark over the last like few seasons of our team, with our center backs being really solid and Anika being spectacular down the right, and Sesa having a really good first season? Like, how like frustrating is it for the defense to have faltered so much in the biggest game of the season?
Yeah, I mean, that's the key word, frustrating. I mean, in the end, we don't want to place the blame specifically on, a single player, on a single line, like the defense. I think, like Lou and Edgar mentioned, collectively, just, it kind of seemed like everybody just let their guard down. You could see how the Rayadas players were after every ball with hunger. They wanted it, and it feels like we didn't. Even in that goal that they made with the Chilena, with how the ball just bounces around and like nobody could just like really clear it. It's like how do you let that happen? That's just it's a lack of intensity. It's a lack of desire to reach the ball, because that's really all it was. A couple of inches. That you pull your leg a little bit longer and you reach that ball and you clear it off. It's just it's sad. It's sad. It's frustrating. It's disheartening. But what can we say? I mean, it's something that we kind of expected. I don't want to say I told you so, but last week we had predictions, and my predictions was that we were going to go into penalties, and that's exactly what happened. And I know that going into the second half, that was not what was on anybody's mind. Nobody expected that. But if we roll back the tape, and if we go back even before the America game, like, were we really expecting our team to be that dominant to win a final 3-0? Like, we weren't that full of ourselves. But happenstance, things happen, and we happen to find ourselves in that spot where we were up 3-0 and we thought we had it made, and that's where everything went wrong. I think that we were playing a lot better, for example, against America, when we felt like we needed to work for it, when we felt like we were the underdogs. And once we didn't feel like the underdogs anymore, once it was Rayadas that felt like the underdogs, then it became their game.
Yeah, that's a great point. Edgar from the H saying in the chat, apparently there was a Rayada player in the box early during the PK. I did not catch that. If that's true, then
Yeah,
that's also pretty
there's two.
frustrating. That's also really frustrating to go along with the jumping of the line by the goalie. Lou, let's talk about Mari Carmen Reyes' absence. I mean, it was felt throughout both games, but I mean, especially last night, right?
Huge blow, man. Huge blow. I mean, you have a player that can go box to box essentially, and you replace her with, you know, I don't like to be the type of person that knocks on Rangel, because Nayeli, she does have her attributes and she does have heart and she loves the team, has a true passion for the team. So I hate it when our fans jump on her. It's not her fault that she has to play that role. But, in this stage of her career, she's more of a role player. She's more of a six man, a player that you can plug in in the 70th minute, 80th minute, come and give you 10 solid minutes of good work. But to put that much pressure on Rangel to play basically, a full 180 minutes. I mean, she played the full 90 for us last night. I mean, it's just she can't get it done. I mean, she just doesn't have the tools, doesn't have the youth that Reyes has. I mean, Reyes can also give you a scoring option, which we lost. So I mean, to me, honestly, I feel like if had we had Mari Carmen Reyes for this series, we probably would have won pretty handily, just because she's able to do so much as far as ball recovery, defensively, and then what she's able to do as a wild card up top offensively. So to me, that was probably one of the key losses of this series, and I think it would have turned the whole thing around. I mean, it's just unfortunate. It is what it is, and I think Milagros Martinez had the options on the bench to be able to fortify that position, at least kind of patch it up better, but she lacked the creativity to do so. For example, I thought in the second half you could have easily plugged in Natalia Colin in there and kind of solidified that midfield when Rangel obviously looked tired already. She looked gassed, especially those last 20 minutes she was out. And so why not in a position that requires that much running? Why not use a player like Natalia Colin, who's very young, very athletic, strong, great defensively? Why not plug her in? So I think that obviously not having Mari Carmen Reyes is a huge blow, but also having a coach that just doesn't know what she's doing kind of hurt us quite a bit.
Yeah, and to that end, let's be clear about this for everybody who's listening and watching. We're not saying that Mari Carmen, her absence is the reason why we blew a 3-0 lead going into the second half. That's not what we're saying at all. But it does make a big difference as far as like our control, our ability to handle possession, especially with how aggressive Rayas were in the second half and how determined they were to win every ball. Like her not being there is a big deal as far as like our ability to like have any sort of rhythm and flow in possession. And you could definitely feel that last night. And the other thing too about her is that her injury is not short term. Like she tore part of her ACL, and that means that she's going to be out a pretty considerable while. So now it's up to the front office, which asking our front office to do anything seems like a big task nowadays. But they got to go out and find somebody quality before the start of next season, because it's clear that you need somebody at a high level like Mari Carmen in order for things to really work. And maybe a new coach will help in that regard, but obviously we'll get to that point. We got to talk about this dumb shootout and just the order. This is for everybody. I don't care who answers it
Hey, before we
first.
get to that,
Yeah,
I actually want to throw back a question to you, Dennis.
yeah. Go ahead.
And without necessarily focusing on Mila, but just the game aspect of how things played out. How do you feel about basically all of our attacking players getting subbed out and pretty much ending up with a back line of like 7?
I understand why you do it, right? Like you're trying to hold on to the lead, but I don't know. They'll said it great last night. Like you can't expect to defend that long and not crack, right? And just and some of the subs that she made, as far as like taking out certain attackers, like Thembi should not have gone off at all because in the event that you can get another like transition moment, counterattack moment, she's got the speed and the pace, as we've seen in this Agia run, that she can go out and score just by herself. And taking her off and really only having Ovaya be that option to do anything in transition, when she's not as fast as she once was, really, really frustrating. And it seems like she just does that every game. Like, regardless of how things are going, it's always like it's a defensive sub. It's never about throwing on, offensive players. But I think that got magnified even more in the context of trying to hold on to the lead. And it's not surprising that she did it, but it's also like you're asking for it if you're going to have 7 defenders just on the field. And especially girls who are just not experienced in finals, like just straight up, who just haven't had the experience in those big games to really like hold their head high and to make sure that they don't crack under the pressure. Talking about Jimena Lopez, for example, like she gave a couple dumb fouls when she came on, and then obviously look what happened in the shootout, right? So not great. Speaking of the shootout, let's talk about the shootout. I mean, I don't even have a question. I just need to acknowledge that it was just horrible, and I I don't know. It's just annoying how it happened. Somebody else talk about it.
Yeah, so I mean, the order in which you select your players who are out there, very questionable. Obviously, we didn't have any, or very few offensive players left. But I don't know. I think that just was also that was extremely poorly managed, and that it's a coin toss, and we didn't prepare ourselves for it. Mila didn't set up her pieces correctly.
Well, I think it goes back to Alfred's point that, the whole time she's playing checkers while Rayadas' manager's playing chess, right? You killed any chances of playing a counter by substituting out offensive players and bringing in defensive players. So you killed any chance for a counter now. So you're fully parking the bus, but you're also taking away the players that are key or instrumental for a possible penalty shootout. So it's just poor in-game management by her, which I think we've seen all season. We've talked about it here before. She's terrible in-game manager. She's just doesn't know what she's doing. She's not thinking ahead. And so a lot of the final decisions in the order that were taken were basically her shooting her own foot, right? So now you're down to basically defenders taking shots, which in an ideal situation you normally don't want. It's rare the case where you want your center backs taking shots, right? PK shots. I mean, unless you have like a Juninho or something like that, but it's rare. So you're putting your Natalia Villarreal, your Jimena Lopez's to take shots when you could have had, Thembi, you could have had Hermoso, whatever it is, If you
Ana
if you
Diaz.
if you play your cards right, you know, you could have played for the shootout. And then possibly you could have won the game earlier, but it just goes back to what Alfred is saying. I mean, she was not thinking ahead. You could tell she wasn't thinking ahead. She was just one thought only: preserve that tie, and it backfired on her.
Yeah, and I mean, those substitutions were as if this was a Jornada 14, you're trying to rescue a couple points at home. That's not what you're doing. It's a league title. It's a final. And those substitutions were horrendous, and it cost us the game.
And we talked about Jimena Lopez, right? Like we mentioned her. She's not cut out for certain positions on the pitch. So you watch film, you see it, we see it, and then you still do it anyway in a pivotal game, which is it just doesn't make any sense to me.
The moment that I saw Mayor not go second in the shootout I lost it, and I thought it was over because like that's the most obvious choice, right? Like the attackers, the very few that you had left in that moment should be the first ones taking it, and the fact that I can't remember who it was that went second. Um,
Jimena.
that's right, it was Jimena. Like, what are we doing? Like, it's the Taylor Twellman meme. What are we doing? That's how I felt in that moment of like, she just came on for like 10 minutes, was horrible in those 10 minutes, and now you're asking her to step up and try and score on a goalie who, mind you, she got a little bit of help, has saved a penalty tonight and has all the confidence in the world, and they have all the momentum. What were we thinking there? That drove me crazy. That, mind you, that was also a very weird shootout with how many of the misses or what the misses even were. But good lord, that one just I felt like it was
That's
over.
another thing, Dennis. Like at some point, she must have realized it's going into PKs, and you don't pull Ceci Santiago for your better PK shootout goalie, which is Itzel Velasco. Like why not make the substitution to put your better goalie there? Honestly, if Rayadas don't send those shots far left, I don't think Ceci Santiago stops a single one.
Oh, she was
Mm.
horrible. I mean, she didn't
And
move in
so
like three of them, dude.
that's not her cup of tea. She's a decent keeper as far as like during the game, but for PKs, that's not her cup of tea. So put in the better PK shot blocker, which is Itzel. That like to me is just it just doesn't make any sense, man.
I'm surprised it went as long as it did too. Like I thought we were going to be done after 4 rounds, but luckily they missed a couple, and then Anika made that big one in the fifth round, and we had some life there. But good lord, everything about that, except for the first round, was really frustrating. Um, what else, man? I mean, just how I mean, incredibly frustrating. Incredibly frustrating to see Kati be the one that scores the third goal. Like I wanted to vomit in that moment of like, really, she comes on with like 4 minutes left, and now she's the one that's going to get all the glory, all the praise because she gets this moment against her former team. Yeah. I mean, I don't have any other like big picture thoughts. If there's anything else we need to address, then go for it. But, geez, man.
As far as the squad, man, I think it's just the front office is gonna have to sit down and really evaluate themselves. I think we shot ourselves in the foot with a lot of signings that we probably didn't need to make. Like I said, there's positions that we needed to reinforce, but it doesn't mean you kick out a good player or two good players to bring in a player you're not going to use at all. For example, I keep going back to La Chata Hernandez, and I mean it's not her fault that we went out and got her, but we dropped Antonio and Mercado, who we could have used last night. Imagine Reyes goes down, now you got Mercado. Like you feel confident in that, bringing in a player like that, right? Or even Antonio. Like let's say Antonio can play center back, so you could have plugged her in at the end of the game to kind of seal that up, play with three center backs. And so we gave up two proven players with the squad to bring in one player who never got used at all. That it just doesn't make any sense to me. And so moves like that need to be evaluated, and we need to figure out what we're doing, what the purpose of some of this stuff is. What was the purpose of bringing in Jimena Lopez? Player as a fullback? Like, come on, you know? It's just to me, there's just moves that didn't make sense. Like Ana Diaz makes sense, Ana Cesa makes sense, but then you go out and get another handful of players that you're not going to use. Tatiana Flores rotting in the bench. There's Natalia Colin. Why not use her? To me, that's one that I thought, man, we're definitely going to use her, especially with Mari Carmen Reyes going down. She could play holding mid. And so, there's a lot of stuff that I think we need to get fixed. And ultimately, we haven't talked about Mila, and I don't know if we are. I don't know if we're skipping over that or not, Dennis. But
Oh no! We can really start to wrap up that talk now. I'm all ears.
like to me, that's the most important move this offseason. A lot of people are blaming our players and the mistakes, whatever. Players make mistakes all the time, man. I mean, come on. Like Ovalle, she carried us the whole season. She made mistakes last night. That's normal. We're not gonna get on our players for that. What we need is to fix our manager, because if we're being honest, after week 5, the team looked pretty terrible almost throughout. We had a few high points here and there after week 5, but for the most part, the team hasn't looked great. And to be completely like transparent and truthful, like it was almost like we got lucky in leg 1, man, because in the second game we reverted right back to being who we were, which we couldn't keep possession. Our our lines were all out of whack, too much distance between players. We couldn't string passes together. That's the team we've been. So honestly, we kind of lucky to even be in the final, kind of lucky to even have a shot at winning. And we got all excited, but it would have just masked the terrible season, not the terrible season, but the poor season we've had, where we've got a bunch of talent, but we're not playing up to the level of that talent. So I think, yeah, this is like really hard to swallow. It's tough because it's against the neighbors, right? It's against our bitter rival, but hopefully it brings us back down to earth and we sit down and fix a lot of the issues that we're having. And I think it starts with Milagros Martinez.
I mean, she should have been fired 15 minutes after the game last night.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
the fact that she's still employed technically right now just drives me insane. It kind of gives off the same vibe a little bit of how Jerry Jones today was saying that, oh, Mike McCarthy might get extended. It feels like our front office is saying, oh, Mila might still stick around. They haven't actually said that, but it feels like that vibe. It's like, what more evidence do you need? The players don't like her. They don't respond to her. You lose a final, and even more so, a final that you were up 3 goals in the second half on aggregate against your bitter rival because of poor execution and poor substitutions. That falls on her. Like, if that's not grounds for termination, I don't know what the heck could be, right? So I think she will get fired, but the fact that it hasn't happened by now is like really frustrating. So Edgar, Alfred, obviously we're all in agreement that she's got to go, but like, who do we bring in? What's the plan? Does the front office need to get shaken up too? I mean, I think there's an argument there as well because of some of the, lackadaisical nature of this, just them this season on both sides, on the men and the women's team.
So I think that is the tricky part, and the optimist in me wants to believe that Mila Martinez has not been let go just yet because there's no replacement lined up. That's what I assume. Now, as far as who do you bring in, really, truly, and honestly, I don't know. I tweeted this out too. I would like to see someone like Juninho take over this team for a long-term project, not for just, hey, we're firing Mila Martinez here, take over for 6 months. I think that is one of the very few people who's very familiar with the institution, who really, truly, and honestly deserves an opportunity to bring on a full project. But as far as like how realistic that is, probably not.
Alfred?
Yeah. I mean, going back to what you were saying right now, just the fact that she wasn't fired last night, she wasn't fired today at noon, and it's 10 p.m. now, and there's still nothing out there saying that she's being let go.
No fueron al desayuno.
I mean, right. I mean, why not? She should have had her invitation like outside her room, That's even more worrying. Like Edgar said, if there's nobody lined up yet, that's even more worrying. But I think this goes back to just how nowadays, and not just with the coaching, but with players, they base everything off of stats. And that's why I hate stats. Like, because if you look at the stats, and I was seeing a TikTok earlier of somebody defending Mila. Oh, yeah, like she's the best coach that Tigres has ever had, according to stats. I'm not lying. She is the best coach Tigres has ever had, according to stats. But what does that have to do with anything?
This
Like
is why we
you, if
watch
you
football with our eyes, people.
right, if you see the game, anybody with any sense of logic and reasoning around football can tell that she does not know what she's doing, and that most of the times during the season, her ass got saved by our players, by individual efforts, by outstanding goals in the last minutes, or just the talent that we have. And that's, it goes back. I hate to be repetitive, but going back to what Lou said, I mean, in all honesty, we didn't even deserve to be there, based on how the team was performing and how Mila was managing the team throughout the whole season. So just the fact that we were there, obviously, it raises her number because she made it to another final, and I think this is like the second time only she lost against Rayadas in like 9 games, and people want to go back and point at the 4-0 win in the Conca, but that's not what matters here. I mean, yeah, anybody can win any regular season game. Anybody can have a bad night and you have a goleada, but it's these games that matter when it comes down to the line and you have to make important decisions. And I want to go back because I didn't get my chance to talk about the penalties and the strategies. I mean, yeah, you want to defend, okay, you defend, but at the same time you got to be thinking, okay, what if Rayadas not only scores a third goal, but what if they would have, scored the third and scored the fourth, and you needed to score again? You had no more offensive players, so you have some that get tired. Jenny Hermoso gets tired. Maybe Tembi was tired. Maybe somebody pulled a muscle and you needed to bring him out. Well, then, I mean, you still have Montoya. You still have, some of these other younger
Belen
players.
Cruz.
No, Belen Cruz is injured. Was
Oh,
injured.
Belen Cruz is out. Oh,
Yeah,
that's true.
but
Yeah.
you still had what's that other player? The young girl that you like, Lou?
Oh, Mane Gonzalez.
Mane. You have Mane. You still have, even though we don't think that she's had the best of seasons, you still have Alison Gonzalez. I mean, like,
Montoya, where was she last night?
that's why I mentioned Montoya. Like, so you had other options to replace offensive players, and who could have also been options for the PK. And I don't know if anybody wants to remind me on how many substitutions were made, but if there was still a window and there was still an opportunity for a sub, like Lou said, why not take Ceci Santiago out and bring in Itzel? I mean, the stats won't tell you that. The stats won't tell you the bad decisions that she makes throughout games. And the stats don't tell you that it was her fault that we lost this game. Yesterday, I shared a meme that, it kind of went around, and I want to apologize. Maybe I was a little bit harsh on Jimena because, like Lou said, I mean, it's not her fault that she's being put in a position that is not, in her best of her abilities. She's more of a center back. Why is she playing fullback? And it's not her fault that when you've just come into the game, you're cold, you're still making mistakes, and then you get you get the responsibility placed in your lap of taking that second PK kick. I mean, hers was the worst out of all of them. Even out of the ones that like kicked them out, at least they kicked them out strong. Like hers like went rolling
Yeah.
really slow. It's just, and that's all lies on Mila Martinez. So stats stats favor her, and maybe that's what the front office looks at. Maybe they see, oh, well, she made a final and she's got us in the semifinal in the Conca, and maybe based on that, they'll keep her, and that worries me.
I can't. I can't imagine them keeping her on the numbers alone. I mean, to be fair, I mean, you could pretty much look. I'll give you an example. You could put in Fernando Samayoa, who is the coach for Querétaro Femenil. Like that guy went into El Volcán and scored 3 on us, bro, with a very limited squad. So a guy like that could come in, take over the squad, and put up even better numbers than Mila and statistically be better. So like, yeah, she looks good, but it's the squad making her look really good. And I can't imagine the front office saying, "Oh, well, they're putting up good numbers, right?" Um, when the crowd in the stands is telling you they don't like the product.
The lack of crowd
Yeah, I mean, the attendance numbers have been going down drastically, man.
since she came on board.
Yeah,
And
and
it wasn't
especially
even
this
full on
season,
Friday. It wasn't
it's
even full on
tanked.
Friday. Yeah.
It's been tanking, and I think they have to be looking at that. The only way I see them keeping her is if she's got some crazy like buyout clause, which, dude, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I feel like in negotiations we've been getting killed. This front office has been getting murdered. But that's the only way that I'm thinking is that they're being cheapskates. Like, hey, well, she's got like a, something ridiculous, $2 million buyout clause or something, right? And they're like, man, we don't want to pay it because next summer she's out anyway, right? And so they're like, we'll stick with her because we don't want to pay her that extra money. And that's, to me, that's what concerns me, is that that's what's holding up the whole thing. But as far as replacements, I feel like there's plenty of options out in the market, and you could go and steal somebody else's coach, pay them decent money. I like Edgar's idea. I like Juninho. I think he'd be great. He's got the perfil tigre. He knows the institution. He's got the passion for it. And then you got a proven coach who's been here before under Moscato, which was Ann Helen Graham, who's, from what I understand, a great tactician. So, there's plenty of options, and I'm hoping the front office is at least looking.
I would even go for Villacampa. I mean, America, they're not very pleased with the fact that he's lost or
Yeah,
he's not been able to manage his team. But I mean, they've gotten unlucky. If I'm being honest,
yeah.
and I think he's a great coach too. So I think anybody's a better coach than Mila.
It's funny you mentioned that with America. I'll explain that when we get to the men's side. Um, because I have something there. We only had 3 subs. We only used 3 subs. So we had 2
Natalia, Jimena, and Mayor,
and Mayor. Yep. It
right?
was it was yeah, it was Mayor who came in for Jenny early second, and then right after the penalty the other 2 happened. That was it.
And here's the thing why I don't buy the whole Themby was tired thing. She played Rangel the whole time, bro.
That's
And I mean, it's an older player who has a bigger body, so is burning more fuel. Whereas opposed to Themby, smaller frame, more juice, younger. I mean, I just don't see it. I think in her mind, I think she was just like, hey, you know what? Let's put 6 or 7 in the back and hope for the best.
bro. I think even Nana Diaz was actually even helping more defensively
Yeah.
than Rangel.
We lost all pressing up top when she left, bro. I mean, it was just, as soon as I
Also,
saw that, I'm like, man, we're doomed, because now you have no options. Who's gonna score now? You know,
you don't
it's so
take
easy to defend Ovalle when
yeah.
that's the only option. That's where the ball's going there. So you put 2 players on
And
her, and that's it.
and and people want to rip the defensive line for the mistakes, but I mean Rayados weren't worried in the back. They weren't worried, so
No,
they could send all their offensive power. So it was bound to happen. Mistakes were bound to happen. The more you have, the more you're exposed yourself to having the opposing team attack and attack and attack.
yeah,
Things, people are not perfect. Players are not perfect. And then people on Twitter now, they want to, those that want to defend Mila, they want to put the blame on our captain. They want to put the blame on Greta. They want to put the blame on even Ovalle. I've seen tweets of people putting the blame on Ovalle. I'm like, what the heck? Like, literally players that have carried this team. The only reason why
yeah.
we were in this final were because of Greta's, Perral's, Ana Seiza. I mean, these players literally took us there. and you have people on Twitter that are like ripping them apart and saying, "Oh, they all need to go." It's like, what the heck? I just don't understand it.
Seiza, I think, could be the only one that you could give a little bit of flack for of all the players, just because I mean, her not clearing the ball like before the second goal
Yeah,
is
that
really,
was her.
really rough. And then obviously she missed her penalty in the shootout. So I think if any player deserves a brunt of the criticism, it's probably her. But even then, like she was still like trying her
Solid.
hardest. Super
Yeah.
solid, yeah. And let me say this about Themby too. You don't take her off when she deserves to be playing that game after the incredible Liguilla that she's had. Just statistically pressing her. I feel like she stepped up as a leader too throughout these last few weeks. You don't take her off. I don't care that you're trying to sacrifice. Like you try and leave her and Ovalle on to
Sacrifice
have
Rangel, man.
Exactly.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
you lose. You talked about it with Ana Diaz with the pressing. Same thing with Themby. Like she helps out with that a ton. Was it weird to have her play in the striker position sometimes? Yeah, but also like she gives you something. She gives you a threat when you sacrifice girls in and out. It's like you lose that threat. So shout out my Theo who's watching because I sent him the link. He's saying Alexia Delgado disappeared the whole series. And honestly, I think that's a great point because I do not remember her doing anything super well the last two games.
Our midfield disappeared, bro. Our midfield, to be honest with, I mean, she disappeared this series, but to be honest, our midfield has been gone for a long time. We just haven't talked about it because a lot of times, Ovalle drops down so deep that she helps out so much to carry the ball towards the final third to make crosses. I mean, the amount of work Ovalle has done, I'm surprised we haven't injured her or crippled her. I mean, she has to work so much more now that Mercado's gone. So like that's it's a fair point that he's making. I mean, honestly, our midfield's been gone. We haven't
But
had any presence.
I mean, it's true. But at the same time, like she's alone. Like
Yeah,
literally,
yeah,
she
she's
had no help. She didn't have Rangel. I mean, Rangel was there, but she was not helping. She didn't have Mari Carmen.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, and it goes back to what you were saying, Lou, and what I mentioned when we let go of Mercado. It's a big mistake. Mercado was our Carioca. She was our Carioca in the women's team. And Alexia Delgado looked really good next to Mercado. Really good. Why? Well,
yeah.
because Mercado was holding everything.
Yep.
So now you get rid of Mercado, and then you also get rid of or you don't have Mari Carmen Reyes. You expose Alexia Delgado. She can't handle the whole team.
I'm not worried necessarily about Delgado because I feel like with better coaching, things will get better. Part of the
I agree.
of our problem has been spacing. That there's just not enough connections there to be able to make good passes. If a lot of times our mids will get the ball and there's a player but they're 20 yards out, which it's a tough pass to make. When there should be groupings there to be able to help each other out. You should have short range passes that you can make. There should be plenty of options around the midfield, which we don't have because we don't have the movement because we're not practicing that during the week, right? So that it just all goes back to coaching. I think once we get a proper coach, the movement will be there, the spacing will be right, the space between the lines will be better, so we'll be able to keep possession. That's another thing. Because of bad coaching, we're not a possession team anymore. We're playing al puro pelotazo, like play the long ball, find Thembi, find Ovalle, find Hermoso who can play as a post and kind of distribute from there. And so we've lost that key element that we've had in years past.
And at least like try to do something different as far as like if you don't have midfield presence, gosh, I can't talk. Then run a 4-3-3. You got to sacrifice something, right? And like I would have much rather one of those subs have been another midfielder. I mean, obviously there's a drop off, but it's like to have some sort of solidity there. That would have been nice instead of having just 7 center backs and just
Yeah.
hoping for the best and just putting everybody behind the ball. And I felt this way like probably all season too, just because I feel like the 4-2-3-1, because we're not a possession-based team anymore, like you just said, it really doesn't work. Like, it hasn't worked all season, and it would have been nice to kind of go back to a traditional 4-3-3 and just see how it went. But obviously, look who's in charge and her
Yeah.
lack of ideas. So, um, we need to talk about Ovalle because there's been a lot regarding her as far as like the rumor mill goes. Out of a 0 to 100 scale, and if you're watching or if you're watching live, not if you're listening later because you won't be able to, but if you're watching live, give us your thoughts in the comments as well. What is the likelihood that she is still a Tigres player in January because of all these rumors that keep popping up?
I'm gonna say 30%. So I think it's been multiple seasons now. More recently, she was more frustrated that she couldn't move to the NWSL, so I think she's more out than in.
Yeah. Her reaction after her shootout kick goal, when she, pretty much apologized to the crowd, and the way she stood there at the end during the trophy ceremony, it almost makes it seem like she was taking it in that might have been her last game, and that sucks. It really sucks if she has to leave this way, but I'd be happy for her. She deserves it.
Yeah, I think it. I think we need to let her fly, man. You know, I think it's time. I think it's good for her, and I think it's good for the club too. I mean, obviously we would miss her talent, but how great is it that we're placing one of our players at a top European club, right? I mean, it's a feather in our hat too, and for recruiting purposes, that's great too, right? You can come play with us, and if you want to go to Europe, you got a shot. You can get there, and the fact that some of these players are moving to top clubs, I think it's a good sign for us. And honestly, if she leaves, I think doors always open, right? She'll come back. I think that we'd see her a few years down the road coming back, and after she's learned a few new tricks. So to me, I think it's a win-win for everybody. I think it's great for her, and I think it's great for the institution. Um, we've we've become very dependent on her, so another reason why she is good for her to leave, right? Because we need to develop some of our younger players. We've got some youth players that need to grow up, right? Grow into this team, and so why not? Players like Mane Gonzalez, Dady Ramirez, some of those players have let them get a shot as well. So I think it's great. It's part of the evolution of the club.
I think it gives us networking and builds relationship with other
Yeah.
clubs, opens up negotiation channels. So I think that is also great. I have a hot take, but Dennis, I don't know if you were leading us somewhere else.
No, I was just gonna say I think I agree with Edgar's number of 30%. I think that's a fair one to put it at. I think there is a chance that she could still stick around. But I think ultimately you want to get good value financially too. And I mean, she's going to be on a free in the summer, from what I understand. I mean, I know there's conflicting things about her contract expiring this summer or next. So I just assume that she's out of contract this summer. And so this is the time to do something now in order to kind of recoup some financial value. And I think the club can kind of get more than what you probably could get for somebody with 6 months left, just because she is that important and you're losing your best player and one of the more iconic players, not just in the team, but in our league. So I will be very sad if she leaves, but I think it's likely that she does. Hot take. Go ahead.
All right. Well, before that, just to close it up, I'll say this. I think if Mila stays, she's going to go, or she has to go. If they bring in a new coach in time before these negotiations happen, she might get convinced to stay one more year and go for the Septima. And I'd be happy with that. So my hot take, And I was, in our group chat, you had earlier conversations about this certain player. I didn't want to budge in because I wanted to talk about it during this live. And it takes me back to, kind of what like Lou brought up since the very beginning about us letting go of Mercado, letting go of Antonio. The reason why we have Mari Carmen Reyes playing as a defensive midfielder with Alexia Delgado, I think it's because of Jenny Hermoso. My hot take is I would let Jenny Hermoso go. I think that she is an absolutely really talented player, but our team is not built around her. And unless there were plans to build around her, which shouldn't be because she's a player that's on the verge of retiring, then she's really just taking up a spot and then making not just the coaching staff, but also the front office make decisions around the fact that you have to keep Jenny Hermoso in that spot. That's my hot take.
I can't disagree with it, man. Honestly, I feel like, and we keep going back to the same starting point, but I feel like a lot of it also has been Milagros Martinez wasting her. It would have been an interesting experiment under a different manager. I think it could have been different because you kind of tended to see what she could give you under, for example, what she did with Chardin Corral in Pachuca, right? That kind of chemistry, but with our squad, I mean, she has not. For what we paid, I just don't feel like we've gotten anything really. I mean, we've gotten exposure through social media and her going to these award ceremonies and stuff like that. I mean, it's great, but on the pitch, I think the product's been poor. And to be fair to her, I don't want to place it all on her. I think a lot of it has been our style of play. When you're playing pelotazo, then why do you need her as a poste, or whatever, or at times she was playing that doble pivote early in the season, which made no sense, so deep, almost like a holding mid, and so I think it's part of it is just Mila, kind of messed her up, but I would love to see one of our young players have a shot at it instead of her, and I'd have absolutely no problems. I'm with you. If she moved on this off season, it wouldn't be one of those players where I'm like, man, we're gonna miss her. She's gonna be like, for example, Mari Carmen Reyes, we know is gonna be at least probably gonna lose at least half the season next year, maybe more.
Yeah.
That type of player we're gonna be missing. If Owaye leaves, obviously we're gonna be like hurting. But I just don't. You could plug in Dady Ramirez in there and probably get more production.
It's just wild that she's literally a striker and she never was in the box. I think that says it.
Yeah,
Like-
and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Dennis, like, it's just that's managerial decisions in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, like, could she have done better statistically and stuff? Like, yeah, sure, but I think that, oh my goodness, like 95% of the reason why she has not succeeded with our club falls on the coach, who is her countrymate. Like, she is also a Spaniard. You would think that would have helped in some regard, but I don't think it's helped at all.
Do you remember how they used man, I forgot her name. Mexican national player, Houston Dash. Real tall.
Oh,
Can't believe I forgot her
Oh.
name.
You talk about the girl that destroyed us in the summer
Yeah,
cup game?
so she
Yeah.
torched us. And it's because
Yeah.
of her height. And
Yeah.
I'm like, how come we never used her in the box for headers? Like, cross it in. We have players that, why you can cross, Demby can cross. Never once had her in the box to be able to head the ball in when she has a huge height advantage.
Last season she did have a few goals, headers in the box. It feels like less and less she got a chance to be in the box this season.
My uncle saying Jenny Thavan.
That comment right there, I was trying to formulate a comparison,
Yeah.
and he nailed it. I mean, unfortunately, we have a world-class player, World Cup champion, who just does not fit in.
Maybe it's the heat, bro. Maybe it's the heat, just like Florian.
Man, no, I can't say that about her. I can't say that about her. I'm sorry. Um, anything else with Femenil before we transition to slightly more positive talk?
Fuera
I
Milan.
do. I think we deserve some minutes of time for Anika Rodriguez.
Our warrior god.
God, I mean, besides what she does on the pitch and what she's done all season through this Liguilla, how many times she saved us, and one of the reasons why we made it to the final. Um, she scores her penalty after a couple of people had already missed, and kept us alive still in the series. And then she's the first one to come out on social media and apologize, or at least say how she feels after this game. I think we have not only an excellent player, but a true leader in the locker room with her, and I hope that she stays with us many, many years.
Yeah. Love her, man. Love her. Great player.
Great player, better person. Anything else? I feel like an hour's worth of ranting is good enough.
I feel much better. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Are we in stage 2 now, or where are we at?
We're moving. We're moving forward.
Seriously. My uncle also saying Anika represents the perfil Amazona. Interesting. Amazona, but not Tigre. Interesting. Okay. Again, if you're watching right now, share, subscribe, like, comment, do all the things so that we can have more of you join us for this next part of the episode, which Edgar, take us there.
San Luis versus Tigres. Liguilla begins. Football returns for the Incomparables as Liguilla finally kicks off. Tigres will travel to San Luis and play the first match of quarterfinals on Thursday night, with the second leg taking place at the most passionate stadium in all of Mexico on Sunday night. How far can Pauno and co make it in the playoffs?
Okay, so we get a Thanksgiving treat with the game on Thursday night. I know Mr. Alfred has a conflict of interest. You got to get the 2-screen setup, bro. Packers on one screen, Tigres on the other. I'm
gonna have to. My little girl wants to watch her YouTube. I'm gonna have to take away her TV. I need both TVs in the living room.
Oh man, it's gonna be great to be eating Thanksgiving dinner and watching our boys hopefully get a good result away from home. Do we know broadcast situation for Thursday night yet?
ESPN.
Okay.
As far as I know, it's ESPN. I'm not sure. I know that in Mexico, Azteca is taking both games.
Yeah.
And obviously here by default we should have Sunday's game on Estrella TV. But I hope that maybe Estrella TV has pulled some strings to try to get Thursday's game as well. It would be great for them as well. I'm pretty sure they want to have a broadcast on Thanksgiving. But if not, it's going to be on ESPN Deportes.
Yeah, or even if Fox Deportes could also pull some strings too. Like either one of them would be great. Be sure to watch the social medias for information on that.
And for those that maybe don't have ESPN, but I think Hulu will pass the game.
Okay, that's good to know.
I think through Hulu.
So Thursday night there, and then Sunday night back at home. I'm kind of surprised we're not playing tomorrow, to be honest with y'all, especially since we had the longer break and because we did not have to wait on play-in results to happen. But I'm also not complaining about it. Hopefully it doesn't backfire into a next round in the semifinals. If we make it, we end up getting the Wednesday-Saturday slate, but we'll see. Yeah, just thoughts on this game. I don't remember much about the last time we played them. I think there was a home game, right? Like earlier on in the season, and we won. Was that the game that somebody got sent off for San Luis and
Bruneta got sent off that game?
Bruneta got sent off for us. Yeah, we scored the The last
The
second
last
goal.
minute goal, I think, on free kick, Gorriaran.
Yep. Yeah. That's
Yep.
right. That's right. So I don't know if we can take too much from that game, but I don't know. What do you guys think about the matchup initially? It feels like we've got a not the worst matchup by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, obviously not easy. The matchups are never easy. If you think they're easy, you're lying. But do we feel like we got a favorable situation here or no?
I think it's a trap game, man. I think it's one of those games we're gonna have to be really careful how we manage it, how we play it. Uh, we looked well when we played them. I think we matched up well, but they're a disciplined squad. So it's one of those squads that if we make mistakes, it would haunt us. So I think it's one of those games that I don't want to get too overconfident. I like the matchup if we can play smart, pick our spots, but it wouldn't surprise me if we struggle. Just because of the talent they have and the discipline they have. So I think it's they're well coached. It's one of those games we're really gonna have to be careful.
I expect the first half on Thursday to be rusty. Very, 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 very rusty.
That's
I mean,
another thing.
the team hasn't played in like 3 weeks.
Yep.
It's gonna look like a Jornada dos game.
Yeah. And honestly, the opposite side of that is if we're rusty, then I could definitely see them try to take advantage and hit us with a quick goal early on in the first half. So just got to be on guard. I would expect the boys to be on guard throughout the whole 180 minutes, but you can't be asleep to start the game on Thursday, especially. Otherwise, you're gonna dig yourself into a hole that you don't want to get yourself in. Um, Alfred, Edgar, thoughts and initial matchups that you find interesting regarding this matchup?
I mean, it's definitely going to be a little bit more complicated. Like Lou said, it's more of a trap game. One of their key players to watch out for is their own French players, Sales Lamange, if I pronounce that correctly.
I think so.
It's going to be a one to watch out for.
So I just think that this game, well, in general, we might be in a position where, out of all of the different teams in the Liguilla, we might have it worse. And I'll say it because San Luis has the least to lose. Like, you know what I mean? Like that. Like, what do they got to lose? Nothing. Nobody expects anything out of them, right? I think the pressure is on us, on Tigres, to try to get to another final. And I just hope that they, like you said, Dennis, that they come out prepared. I think the first game, I'm gonna go ahead and with the prediction. I think it's gonna end at 0-0. It's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be boring, maybe. But I just hope that our defense, keeps us solid. Nahuel keeps us solid in the back, and then that could open up the opportunity for us to, take it away at home. But say it right now, Pauno might be wanting to give us a 2-for-1 on the whole managerial bad decisions week that we've been having. He's supposedly wanting to start Antuna when Antuna hasn't played in 6 games, or hasn't started in 6 games. And I think the last few games that we won, we had good results. He kind of stuck with the same lineup. Why is he switching now? How can 2 weeks of no play time, all of a sudden now you see Antuna as your starter? Makes no sense. So I'm afraid. I'm very afraid.
Edgar, you put it in the outline, the question of can he, Antuna, be trusted to deliver after a very underwhelming season? I mean, the answer is a very resounding no. I mean, you and I saw him start a friendly game against Cruz Azul almost 2 weeks ago, and what did he do? Nada, nothing. He did absolutely nothing that day. If you can't perform in a friendly, what makes you think you're going to perform in a Liguilla setting? That makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to shift Cordova out when clearly him and Brunetta have been forming good chemistry the last few league games, just so Antuna can come in. And also the continued insistence on starting Lainez, which I guess that's what is going to be the thing with Pauno now. But Osiel Herrera, again, still right there. That's been the better player this season. I do not like that front four that came out through Twitter today that was being used in practice. But I mean, I hope that he changes his mind and goes back to something more solid, aka the two suggestions I just made. But he can't play Antuna. He can't start him at least. Like, you're asking for it if you have him play this game, if you have him start on Thursday. You're digging yourself into a hole before the match even starts, for crying out loud. So, I don't know. Other thoughts on Antuna's supposed inclusion and what y'all think the lineup should be on Thursday?
Yeah, I'm with the rest of you guys. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I think it's ripping a page out of Mila's book. It to me it's not. It is not one of those that makes any sense whatsoever. I think we know what the starting lineup needs to be, and hopefully better heads prevail, and he gives us the correct starting lineup, which we know what the team looked best to close out the season. So I think that's your formula right there, and I think that's how you need to continue playing in Liguilla. So to disrespect Cordova like that too, to me is no good, man. I mean, the guy already has proven Liguilla, a great proven Liguilla record, so can't do that to him.
And it's not like he's hurt, right? Like, I understand why you're hesitant to not bring in Carioca yet, right? Because he's coming off an injury. You want to be a little bit careful. Same with Guignac. I understand including Ibanez because of that, or having Ibanez start. But there's no excuse for Sebastian. Like you just mentioned, he's been one of our more consistent, if not the most consistent Liguilla performer the last few seasons. He literally won us a championship carrying the team on his back. And he's been our most consistent, like one of our more consistent attackers this season. You know, I mean, the stats don't necessarily prove it, but he's aggressive. He presses like crazy. He has good vision. He's got the flair factor. What more could you want? Antuna does not provide you any of those things, nor does Lainez, to be honest. So
Lou wasn't in our pod episode when we discussed Cordoba. I think Edgar posed the question of, how come so many coaches snub Cordoba, and just trying to think, what made Pauno make this decision, or why he's coming up with this lineup now after this 3-week pause. I think it goes back to maybe the fact that Cordova doesn't train that intensively.
Yeah.
I think he's just that type of player, that during training, he holds back a little bit, he maybe lacks some effort, but during the games, I mean, he gives us his raw talent.
He definitely strikes me as the Allen Iverson type.
Right? So
yeah.
Good comment.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he's seeing us. Oh, Antuna during these 2-3 weeks, he's running up and down the training field. I want him in because Pauno is all about this,
discipline. I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts. Running doesn't get you everything that you want. Let's
just ask Luis Quiñones.
Exactly. Rent free. Drink.
Shameful plug, man. Shameful
drink.
And then there's me, who runs more than both of those guys combined for fun.
That's right.
So
that's right.
So you should get the starting nod.
I should get the starting position.
I 100% agree. Oh my goodness. I think. Well, let me before I say what I think. On Sunday, if no flare-ups happen, do we expect Carioca and Guignac to come back into the starting 11?
Yeah.
Feels like you kind of have to throw him in, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I'm more
100%.
concerned about Guignac not being ready still.
He looked
Well,
ready
that's
on
the
that
thing.
bike, bro.
That's
I
true.
mean, you can look at it both ways. You can look at it as, oh, he's actually training, and then there's the other people that look at it like, what is he trying to show us? But I mean, to me, just Guignac, regardless of whether or not he's trained, he needs to be on the pitch. And I know, Lude, as always, defends Nico, and I don't think Nico's a bad player,
the
but
long lost brothers.
we're in Liguilla. We're in Liguilla, and who is Mr. Liguillas, if not Guignac? So even on Thursday, I don't know why start with Ibanez. I would start with Guignac. Let him loosen up his legs so that on Sunday he can rip them.
Yeah, if he's 70% or better, bro, put him in. If he's like 50%, then yeah, give him some rest. But to me, he looks ready. I think it's not serious enough to where you got to say, nah, we got to rest him some more.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Okay, let's predict. You already kind of went halfway, Alfred or Edgar, one of the two. Full predictions.
I'm going 1-0 away and 1-0 at home. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think they're gonna defend with a lot of numbers. Probably looking at 8 or 9 defenders on us.
So is that a 1-1 tie in the global, and then we go into extra, or?
No. We win both 1-0, so 2-0 on
Okay.
aggregate. I don't think they're gonna put up enough numbers unless we defensively we goof, which I think we're past that stage now. I think they're not gonna have enough. They're not gonna put up enough manpower to really, I think their best bet is bunker down, play a counter, and maybe get us early or something. But I think we're up to the task.
Edgar?
Yeah. I'm gonna say 1-0 the first game, 2-1 at home.
Alfred, finish your second half of the
Yeah,
prediction.
0-0 in the first half on the first leg, and then 2-0 at home.
I'm with you. Exact same. I think Thursday's going to be ugly. Real ugly. But I expect us to turn around on Sunday. You know what's going to be a big difference this time? Do you guys remember who was in goal the last time we played a Liguilla game? It was not Nahuel Guzman. So he's going to be
Felipe
back.
Rodriguez.
It was Felipao. So the fact that Nahuel is back makes a big difference. I know Nahuel has not had a stellar season by any means, but also he shows up in Liguilla. So that will be very, very helpful. So
Yeah.
let's hope for the best. If we win, we would move on to the semis against either Toluca or America, right?
Man, as you were saying that, I wanted to finish your sentence. Let's hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
True. At this point,
Oh, man.
We can't handle an early bounce right now, man. We're
no.
I mean, I
barely.
hope not, but guys, would you rather go home against San Luis or go home against Rayados in the next game?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point.
Man, I'm
Also,
still not convinced about Rayados, though, man.
Oh, no, but man, I don't trust Pauno fully, man.
speaking of Pauno, here's my bit about America that I was gonna say. If we get bounced early, and if America gets bounced early, and if Pauno leaves, and
Giardini?
if Jardine
Yeah,
leaves,
man, I would love that
give
move.
Jardine the job here. I would do that in a heartbeat.
I would take it
But
too.
will America let him go? I don't think so.
I think if they get bounced, not in the final, yeah. I mean, they haven't had a
Yeah.
good season, so
Yeah, but they lost some players. They made some changes. I think Cardini has his spot secure at America.
But Nacho Ambriz is looking for a job. I sound like I'm his promoter, man. Like
you're his whole PR
I'm his
department.
agent, bro.
Yeah, you know who else has a job? Well, actually, who else needs a job? He actually has a job now. I was gonna say Jurgen Klopp, but never mind.
Oh,
He
get
actually
out
has
of
a...
here, bro. Come on, man.
Hey, maybe
I would be so stoked, dude.
maybe City fires Pep, considering all the horrible things they've been going through lately, and the fact that he was like cutting his forehead apart
Yeah, his
during their game
nose is
today.
all bleeding and stuff.
That was
Since he
so
wants to
bad.
self-harm. Like, dude, come on. Slow down, bro.
So
Still plenty
funny,
of season left.
bro. The meme potential on that is gonna be unbelievable. Oh, Armada trying to get attention.
Oh man, yeah,
Oh, bruh.
that's another name in the hey, actually, wasn't he kind of like flirting with us not too long ago? He was
I
like,
think
"Oh man, I'd
so.
I
love to
mean,
coach that
and
squad."
I think Almada is the one coach that he hasn't gotten a shot with a big team with
Big.
like big important players. Like he's had only teams of like mid youngsters, and he's pulled through. So
Would
I
love to
wouldn't be
see what he does with our Fuerzas
yeah.
Básicas. If you would give him full control,
Yes.
that'd be an interesting, very
I,
interesting gamble.
I would do this under the condition that we get Deosa, that he scratches his deal with Rayados that he supposedly has, and we get him
Got-
too.
Oh my
Oh
God,
yeah,
guys!
dude, that
Is
guy at
that
midfield.
true? Please tell me
Dude,
that is
I
not
hope it's
true.
not, but if it is, it's gonna make me angry. Like
Yeah,
why? Like why
I
are we
was
letting him
upset
go
just
there?
reading it in the chat. I was like, man, that really gets me mad.
Yeah.
Guys, it boils my blood just to think that literally we've been searching for a center defensive midfielder. The front office knows that Carioca only has 6 months left. They just renewed him for 6 months only. That they know they need to go out there and look for someone. And Rayados gets ahead of you? No way. That's oh my God.
Yeah,
Again, the front office. What are we doing, man? Like
yeah,
just
man.
disastrous, just full on disaster. Um, all right, we have vault moments to discuss, don't we, Edgar? Share those with us. Lighten the mood.
Is correct. We have a few from the vault moments. A couple things we came across. From the vault. For the Amazonas, Natalia Gaitan announces her retirement from professional footy.
Former player.
Former
Former
Amazonas player.
Sevilla, former Tigres player, great leader.
Did she
Has a
did she win a
great.
championship here with us?
She did.
She
Yeah,
did.
she
Yeah.
lifted. She lifted the
Was that
cup.
still under Medina or
Maybe
or was
Moscato's
I
title.
want to say Moscato. Yeah, Moscato.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
'Cause
And then she went to Santa Fe de Colombia, and that's where she ended her career. That was her, I guess, her childhood club.
yeah.
But that's the player that you're probably gonna see down the road coaching a squad. She's got a big future in women's football.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Edgar just corroborated what we said. She won that title under Moscato.
Nice, nice. Another positive for the Amazonas in the Apertura 2024, Ceci Santiago reached 64 clean sheets with Tigres Femenil, 16 in Liguilla, and 8 in Clásicos Regios.
I wish it would have been in the second half of last night's game.
You can say that again.
mean-
Man, she had some decent saves too.
I don't think she has a fault in any of the first three goals, the in-game goals. But
I'll say this
definitely,
though, Alfred. I wish she would have played the victim card a lot more on that cross into the box. I don't know if you guys
Yeah,
noticed, but who was it? Lucia from Rayadas
yeah.
was kind of
bumped her.
blocking her. She was blocking her from kind of moving. And I think if she exaggerates her movements a lot more and falls dramatically, I think she gets the call on that play.
Yeah.
because she was being obstructed, and it's inside the 6-yard box. So it's one of those that you really can't fault her, but with some colmillo, as we like to say in the streets, I think she gets that call.
Hot
Would have
take.
liked to, would have liked to have seen her come out, even though Edgar's probably going to get mad at me in the chat. But in that goal, that second goal, where they're trying to clear it, I think if she pursues that ball, I think she gets there. She kind of just sat there, and I think if she comes out, gets a hold of it, I think it's a different story instead of trying to let Espinosa and then Seiza clear it out. But we're past that. We're
I don't
past that.
disagree with that one at all.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but our last 3 finals with Rayadas have ended in penalty kick shootouts, right? So just
Yeah.
the fact that this happens so often in our league, I think we need a different goalie. I wouldn't be upset if they go out and try to find somebody else to take her spot.
Not high on my list, but I think it's not a bad idea.
We have, I believe, still technically Maria Angela Medina.
I was gonna say, bring her back. UCLA, let her go.
She's hanging out in LA, bro. She don't want no part of Monterrey right now. She's over there living the college life.
Do we know how long she's gone for?
No
No.
clue. No clue.
I'm assuming she's probably like a sophomore, junior, maybe.
Maybe.
I think so. Not entirely sure.
I'll look it up. Say the last one. I actually like this last one that's on the list.
And so bringing it back to Tigres Varonil, one of the best from the vault moments, March 2013, Tigres fans had an invasion at the Alfonso Lastras and filled their stadium, marking the most historic away attendance for the team.
What a cool game, man.
Probably one of the coolest moments in league history, man. Not just, I mean, I'm biased, but how cool was that, man, to send that many fans traveling into San Luis, all these caravans, all these people, with their flags, the whole atmosphere, like flooding the city and then filling up that stadium. And then the stadium was loud that day. This is a very special moment. We got the win. Lucas Lobos in his prime still. Just special
Scored a
moment.
chilena, I think, right? Like at Tijera.
Yeah, it's a tijera.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. I mean, it's so frustrating that the league doesn't let things like that happen anymore because they think that they're all bad and that
And that's why viewership is going down, bro.
Exactly, bro. Exactly.
Killing the fun.
Yep. No fun league.
And
much like the NFL.
If you look at like a lot of the incidents with fan behavior, more often than not, it's the home fans for wherever these incidents are taking place. I'm going to go ahead and call out Rayados, Cholos recently-ish, Querétaro with their whole disaster. I mean, those were home fans. So to say that the away fans are the ones inciting these incidents.
Chivas.
Yeah, Chivas, another good example. I mean, I don't buy it. I don't believe it. No. It's really unfortunate that we're still dealing with,
And to that note, they were saying, or some people were saying that apparently San Luis is again prohibiting the agglomeration of Tigres fans. If you agglomerate, they'll call you out as if you're a barra and potentially get kicked out for the game. So it's unfortunate.
Maria Angela Medina is a freshman.
Oh no,
fish.
A fish long way in the sea. Yep.
Guys, I just remembered, and I want to touch back on it. You guys saw the rumor of potentially getting back Uche for the Tigres
Femenil? Yeah, we forgot to address that. Yeah, I do too. That'd be great.
If Ovalle leaves, bro, I think she'd be a key element, because now you could play Tembi on one side and Kanu on the other end, and have a lot of speed up those wings, bro.
With Ana Diaz and her
Ana Diaz in the middle, And
Oh,
Ana Diaz, I think is just going to build more chemistry in the offseason. I think it's a really promising season next year.
I was gonna save the transfer talk for another time, but I mean we're talking about Cano. I think that's a signing that we desperately need. A player that should have never left our institution, but one more that's kind of on the radar that definitely has the doors wide open at Tigres, Maria Sanchez.
Always flirting with us, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Constantly flirting with us. She was there for the Estrella TV
I just
coverage.
kind of feel like she likes the attention, bro, but she doesn't really want to come back.
Bro, my
I get
argument
that
is that
feeling.
what do you have to play for in San Diego anymore? Like Alex Morgan
You know, I think she
retired.
just likes the city, or
Yeah, Alex
she
Morgan
like being
retired. Come
in the
back.
States with her friends.
Oh yeah. Please come back. Well, we're at it. We might as well bring back Riley Parker if we're talking about former players.
Hey, I'm down. I'm down,
She
bro.
has perfil tigre and
She
perfil
does.
Amazona.
Like, yeah.
Bring her
Yeah.
back. Love
With
to
her
have
and Mari Carmen Reyes, imagine.
Woo! Sign me up. This is not on the outline, but I figured we could end with a little Thanksgiving ending. Are there any players that we are thankful for this season on the femenil or varonil side?
My shout on the femenil side is going to be Anika Rodriguez. I think she's quietly turned into my favorite player. I like her grit, man. That fire, man. It's what we need. And then on the men's side, I got to shout Gorri, man. I think he's been the most consistent player we've had. He stepped up his game this season. So to me, Gorriarán gets a shout on the men's side.
Yeah, I wanted to agree on obviously Annika. I mentioned her earlier, but I want to give my shout out to Mari Carmen Reyes. Obviously, if somebody's sends her a clip or whatever, let her know that she's in our thoughts and our prayers. Hopefully, she gets better soon. So I know that this Thanksgiving season she'll be with her family. So just best wishes for her. We want her back.
Edgar?
Well, Alfred just stole my pick on the feminine side, but I mean I absolutely agree. But Thembi as well. I mean Thembi was phenomenal player this season. Shout out to Thembi, a great asset to our team. And I think on the men's side, surprisingly, Brunetta. I think he's turned it around, and he is still one of the best players in the league. Alfred is making a stank face at me. He thinks I'm crazy. But hey, best wishes to him going into Liguilla. Hopefully he makes a difference.
I'll say Thembi as well. Obviously, Anika is the best, but also like Thembi has just been great this season, and I'm very thankful for her, all her goals and magical moments in this Liguilla run. And on the men's side, I got to go with the steady hand, man. Like, how can you never not be thankful for Guido Pizarro and just the way that he is such a, such a leader on and off the field, vocal presence, a coach on the field, and recently stepping back into that midfield role. And at times, the team looking better when he's higher up, and we'll see how that kind of shapes out throughout this Liguilla run. But I mean, he's just aging like fine wine, like most of our veteran guys are. To see him transition from a rock solid number 6 into a center back and kind of be able to have the flexibility to do both is something that not every player can do. And also to pair the leadership skills and abilities on top of that, like, come on, like, the guy's the best. So
You stole my choice for Manson. I don't know if you guys saw earlier this week as well. Tuca, he was interviewed and he was asked like, who is his like smartest player, like the player that he recalls that whenever he coached them or whenever he told them an indication of something that he needed to change or needed to do, that he would immediately grasp it and apply it in the game. And he said it was Guido Pizarro. He's like,
Yeah.
he literally said that he's like, he surprised me every time I would tell him, something during the week, that next Saturday or that next Sunday, he was doing it. And he says that he's got a great potential and great future to be a coach. So yeah, I mean, hopefully it does come to fruition and it does happen with our team. But yeah, we're very thankful for him. And none of us mentioned, but I think we all can agree, we are all very thankful for Ovalle. who is nonetheless our best feminine player in all time.
in the whole league.
Absolutely.
Correct. And especially in the midst of her potentially leaving. So
And shout out to Gignac, man, who has had
the king.
such a fabulous career, but still keeps grinding, bro. The dude is still running, still getting in shape, still working his butt off. It's just amazing, bro. The work ethic that guy has, I mean, is commendable. I mean, he has not slowed down. So shout out to him as well.
I agree.
12 goals in the regular Clausura and Apertura seasons, 5 first season, 7 this season.
Aprendan huercos.
Absolutely.
Well, what are y'all's Thanksgiving plans? And what's the menu like at y'all's gatherings on Thursday?
Well, for me, the wife is holding it down, making sure we have all the sides, the complete spread. Obviously, it's going to be fun getting to watch both my Packers and my Tigres at the same time. I'm gonna have to, do the double sight kind of thing, but yeah, it's gonna be good.
Some Shiner box,
Oh yeah,
some good games on TV.
a nice nap at 3 p.m.
Coming down with the itis after that fried turkey. You just
That's right. Edgar?
So I'll be spending with my in-laws. My wife will be making a bunch of desserts that everyone but me requested, but I get to enjoy, so I'm not complaining. And of course, with Tigres.
Are you running a turkey trot, Mr. Runner?
I might run in the morning, but I didn't sign up for a race.
Fair enough. Are y'all turkey or ham people?
I'm carne
Ham.
asada people.
But both. Hey, what's the advantage of the turkey though is you have leftover turkey and it's a Mexican family. You make tamales with that, man.
tamales,
make
man.
Get the Christmas season started off right with some.
Man, why are we talking about food, man? Now I'm hungry again.
That's the whole point.
Fourth meal.
All right. The other question I had, pumpkin pie or non-pumpkin pie?
Pecan pie.
Pecan pie.
Okay.
I prefer pumpkin pie.
Edgar?
Around Thanksgiving Day, I think you have to have pumpkin pie.
Oh, I agree. But shout out buttermilk pie. For some reason, buttermilk pie hits on Thanksgiving, but only on Thanksgiving. Edgar saying, I literally just had tacos. Bruh, and you ain't sharing? Also, what kind of tacos you having? Because now I want tacos de trompo. Or tacos de...
Shout out to Arnoldo, who's probably enjoying a lot of tacos down in Monterrey.
That guy doesn't even remember us, bro, right now.
Oh, no. He's enjoying right now his tacos.
Bro, forget the tacos. Let's talk about how many beers he's probably in right now.
Puras indio.
Oh, I was going to say, he's probably having some indio.
That's so accurate. Oh, what did he say? Just regular pollo.
Pollo.
True. I
Hey,
mean,
that's
it
not
was
bad.
it was Taco Tuesday today, so I don't blame you one bit. Any other grievances we need to air before we get out of here?
Now let's end on a good note.
And on a good note.
That's a good idea. Please fire Mila tomorrow or right now. That'd be
Fuera
great.
Mila.
I was
Gracias,
honestly
Mila.
hoping,
Vete
I was
ya.
hoping that it would get announced when we were live, bro. Like,
Oh,
hey, yeah,
dude.
like, somebody would say, hey, did you see what they posted?
Yeah,
But
dude.
nah, it
I
didn't happen,
needed
bro.
that. I needed that comunicado oficial to drop in the
It's
middle of this
refreshing like
recording.
every 5 minutes to make sure we didn't miss it.
The front office is lacking.
They need to fire themselves too. Anyways, let's get out of here. Everybody who's watching, who has been watching with us tonight, thanks for. Oh, hold on. We do have this. Have y'all talked about the Damian goal in the vault?
Which one?
Oh, the one against
Against Toluca?
yeah, against Toluca, the one that got us in
Oh,
the Libertadores.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a good
That's
one,
a good
Edgar.
shout. That's a
shout,
good
man.
shout. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Toluca, yeah.
He's right. Yeah.
One that started the whole run, bro.
Uh-huh. What a run that was. Okay, now for real. Let's get out of here. If you're watching, thanks for being here. If you're listening on the podcast version later, whenever that comes out, thanks for listening. Don't forget to share, subscribe, follow the pod wherever you are, or the channel and the social media accounts. Let me throw up the banner on here. If you're watching live, here are all the handles for all of our stuff. If you're listening, you can find us all on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and YouTube and all the things. You can find all of us on social media. You can find Lou over at Tigres_English. You can find Alfred at Tigres Takes. You can find Edgar at Double L Nation. And you can find me at Dennis Gartman Jr. because I don't have a Tigres account. I just have a personal one, and that is totally okay. We will be back next week, hopefully talking about a semifinal appearance and the replacement for Mila Martinez. But until next time, we will see y'all then. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everybody. Hopefully you guys eat well, and maybe there'll be some carnita asada since, we have a game Thursday night now. So enjoy the holiday. We'll talk to y'all next week. Fellas, thanks for being here. I don't know that we miss you. Arriba la U.
QB1.
Peace.
Take care, guys.